Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are admitting audience members from the waiting room, so we will begin the webinar shortly. This is Sabrina Paganoni. I'm here from the Healing AMG Center for ALS and Mass General, and tonight I'm here with Alison Bullat and Catherine Small, our patient navigation team, and Jessie, our administrative assistant. And we are here for our weekly HEALEY ALS Platform Trial weekly Q&A, March 28th, 2024. So welcome, everyone. For those of you who may be new, the ALS Platform Trial is a collaborative effort. So thank you to all the people whose logos are on the slide, because this is really a community effort to make something very new available to everyone in the community. So thank you for all your partnership from academia, industry, and the entire patient community. So thank you for that. Next slide. So we have built the platform trial as a common infrastructure where we leverage one protocol to test many drugs. And as you know, since 2020, we'll continue to add regimens or drugs, different drugs, to our house and our common protocol so that we can use the same processes to test many drugs. And that's how you get the operational efficiencies that are unique to the platform trial, very different from a standalone trial where you have to test one drug at a time. Here we can test multiple drugs using the same protocol, the same central governance. And that's why we've been able to enroll a record number of participants over the last few years. So despite the pandemic and through all of this, we've been able to enroll a large number of participants thanks to the great support of so many in the ALS community. So I want to thank you for supporting this type of approach, because together we can do something new and really more efficient than standalone trials. I also want to mention that in addition to testing individual drugs using the same infrastructure, because we are under the same roof, we can do something that's very different from a standalone trial. We can continue to learn from each regimen and share the learnings and continue to adapt the house. Essentially, it's almost as if we continue to remodel the house and continue to make renovations and make it better so that the trial continues to adapt. And all the learnings from one drug can really translate into learnings for everyone. And we are accumulating a large number of data and samples that will be available for sharing. And that's another way that we are contributing to ALS in general, in addition to testing individual drugs. And in fact, if you're participating in the trial, learnings, for example, from the common shared placebo extend beyond the regimen in which you participate. In other words, let's say that somebody participated in regimen A, the very first regimen that opened in 2020. The shared placebo data are still being used today to test other drugs. And so that means that even placebo participants, even the people who were originally assigned to placebo, are still contributing to generating knowledge for other drugs as of today. And so that's really remarkable, I think. And that's a unique feature of the platform trial, that we continue to amplify the learnings. Next slide. So within the same infrastructure, we test all regimens, and we have one objective, which is to provide a go, no-go decision for that particular drug. Each drug is tested roughly in the same way. Each testing period lasts actually 18 months, but only the first 6 months are placebo-controlled. So that means that every participant will be assigned to either active or placebo for 6 months, and then the remaining 12 months are active treatment extension, which means that the participant will receive active drug for that particular regimen. And we measure a variety of outcomes, including function, respiratory function, muscle function, and biomarkers. Next slide. So far, we have made an incredible progress with regimens F and G. I would say that the last few weeks were really a record-setting few weeks for the platform trial. We had an overwhelming amount of interest from patients and sites. And so we are very, very close to finishing enrollment. The last few people are in screening right now. And I do want to acknowledge that, we had actually more requests that we could accommodate. because there was such a almost kind of explosive interest. And so we had, to work very closely with the sites, try to accommodate as many people as possible. Right now, we're still, screening a few people, but basically we're getting very, very close to completing enrollment. We will announce that as soon as that actually happens. It has not actually happened yet, but we will keep you posted on that. Depending on exactly what happens to the people who are in screening. So every time somebody wants to join the trial, there is a screening process first. And then after those procedures have been completed, which hopefully takes only a few days, but sometimes can take a few weeks, then we can discuss, that they can start the actual treatment. Next slide. So I want to thank you for your dedication to the trial. I have to say, I'm really, really humbled by the interest, especially over the last few weeks. Our team really continued to receive calls about so many people that wanted to contribute, and I think that it's in part because obviously we're testing new drugs, but I think truly believe that most people join because they want to advance ALS, and so within that infrastructure of the common protocol and the common infrastructure, people understand that participating in this trial helps not just the particular drug that they are testing, but also their data and their samples basically help lots of different projects, because again, with the data and sample sharing that is made possible by this platform approach, everyone's contribution essentially is amplified. So thank you very much for all you're doing, and we'll definitely keep you posted on exactly when completion of enrollment happens for FNG. Next slide. So I do want to mention that as we reach completion, or as we get near completion of enrollment in the current regimens F and G, we are working with a number of industry partners to launch new regimens. However, we also recognize that there will be a gap of some time, a few months, when we're not going to be able to accept new participants into the platform trial. Now, the trial will remain very active, because now that the participants are enrolled, we need to follow them and make sure that we get to the results for F and G. However, there will be a few months while we're getting ready to launch the next few regimens when participants may not be able to enter the platform trial, let's say over the summer. So essentially, we wanted to also bring this point up today, because we know that there's a number of other trials that are available for ALS, both in the US and internationally. And we wanted to list a series of tools that may be helpful for people who are looking for other trials as well. Obviously, we have our patient navigators on the call today, and we'll share their contact information later. But the reality is that the ALS research community is a very collaborative and active community. So we're not the only ones who are running trials, and certainly we're not the only ones who are bringing information about trials to the community. And so, our team has prepared this slide and a few more slides to share a few resources in case you may want to look at other trials as well until we have new regimens. And these are some of the resources that many other organizations have developed. They may have webinars, they may have research tools and websites where you can log in and actually find other trials that may be available at this time. Next slide. So one new navigation option that just became available is from the ALS TDI, the Therapy Development Institute. I really love this ALS Trial Navigator that allows people to look for opportunities globally. And it's tailored to questions that their own characteristics. If people log in and want to input their clinical characteristics, they can help direct people to the right trial for them. Next slide. And this is the QR code and the link to go to the ALS Trial Navigator to also look at maps, where trials may be available and what type of trials they are. There's biomarker studies, there are interventional trials, there's expanded access. The list again goes on and on for people who may be interested. in looking at other trial options. And don't be worried, we are really working on other regimens, and they will come online very soon, but we understand that some people may want to enroll right now in other options as well. Next slide. There are also a number of other resources, not only for trials, but also for expanded access. So we continue to have a webinar series on EAPs, the NILS website, or other websites like the International Alliance websites have different resources for expanded access as well. Next slide. NILS has a number of webinars, including webinars on the drug pipeline, and this is a link to one of the recent webinars. So the variety of topics is great. And so it goes from treatments to trials to research to genetics to other topics of interest. So I would encourage everyone to take a look at the list of webinars available through NILS. Next slide. And another great resource is Everything ALS, another great forum for webinars that continue on a regular basis to talk about both treatments and investigational products. Next slide. And obviously, we will continue to be here every week, although I do want to announce some slight changes for the April schedule, simply due to scheduling, travel, and other conferences. So we canceled the next week's webinar because of conferences and travel. So unfortunately, we won't be able. So we're shifting, because we're not able the first week of April. We're not available the first week of April. We are shifting a little bit the order of the webinars for April. So we will restart on April 15th for our weekly Q&A webinar, and we're moving the EAP discussion that normally is on the second week of every month to the third week of every month, April 18th. We are actually launching a few new online EAP resources, and so we'll be able to present them to you on April 18th. And so I see a few questions in the chat about the slide material. Absolutely, thank you very much for asking. And absolutely, I know that Catherine will kindly post them in the chat, or already has done so, and we can definitely circulate them after the webinar. I also want to mention that these webinars are recorded and the slides are available for viewing. So you can always go to our website. And if you go to our website, you can see archived webinars and also maybe pause the video. I actually tried myself once, and the QR codes do work through the computer. So if you just hold on your phone, maybe you pause the video, the recorded video, you can actually be directly taken to whatever link you were looking for. And so other questions about, there's a few questions in the chat, so I'm going to start taking them. So the question is that, some people are saying, I was hoping to enroll in regimens F and G, but my site is told me that they don't have more screening spots. And that's correct. Unfortunately, we at some point we had to close the number of screening spots, because again of that incredible interest that we have received over the last few weeks. So if people are still in screening, we haven't completed enrollment formally yet, because people are still screening, but we didn't want to screen people and then have to turn them away. So we kind of, stop the screening visits and unless the people who are in screening right now cannot be included for one reason or another, then potentially we could reopen. But again, at this point, we're getting very close to completing enrollment. And so in terms of, when we're going to have new regimens, well, that's going to be hopefully very soon. We are aiming for the second half of 2024. Before we launch any regimen, we need to go through a few steps in terms of doing all the contracting, making sure the right amount of drug is available, all those sort of logistical things that need to happen. So we don't want to announce a regimen and then, for example, find out that, the drug won't be available for a while, or that the contract has not been signed. So we will announce the new regimens as soon as we know that they are a go for sure. So the questions about Florida. So we have a number of sites in Florida. I think it's one of the states with the most sites. I don't think we have one site in Orlando specifically. I think that's what the question is about. But Catherine, you may correct me if I'm wrong. But we are definitely open to opening new sites. The sites need to ask to be included. So the question is, why did we have so much interest for F or G? I think that F and G are very exciting drugs with a great target. And so we had, as more sites came online, I think, that there was just, an incredible interest. And so that's why, after the holidays, we always see a little bit of a slowdown in November and December. And then definitely, people came back and really wanted to enroll. So again, we're not done yet. We're still screening people, but, things are looking good in terms of being able to move forward. Obviously, once we complete enrollment, then, there is a time to follow everyone. So the last person enrolled, which has not happened yet, but, hopefully will happen soon, will sort of start the clock, that kind of 6-month clock to complete follow-up for the participants. Now, after that, we need to complete the analysis of all the studies, so of all the results. So the analysis itself, because we have so many biomarkers and other things, takes a little bit of time. So hopefully we'll have the results in a few months for FMG. And also we're working on adding more regimens. So the question about specific drugs, again, we haven't, made all the final decisions in terms of the next few drugs, but we are definitely in conversations with a number of companies. And, as soon as the contracts are signed, then we can announce them. Great. So I think those are the questions that we got this week. And again, I apologize that we won't be here next week because of conferences and travel, etc. But then certainly we have a good program for April with also, we're launching our new EAP website. So that's very exciting. And I hope you found the information about the other resources, including the ALS Trial Navigator, helpful, because again, the good news is that there are many other organizations also working on trying to get information to people. So certainly the community is very active and is really trying to do everything possible to get the information to people. See a question about whether there are trials for C9. Actually, right now, not that I know of. I know there's a lot of interest. There were a few trials open before. Right now, I don't think there's any that's open for C9, but I know that there's certainly a lot of interest in opening new trials. So hopefully this is just a short pause. There were trials before, and hopefully we'll see trials soon. So with that, I think we are going to, and thank you, Catherine, for mentioning that the ALS Trial Navigator that we mentioned earlier also has a search feature for gene targeting trials. So great point. Thank you for putting it in the chat. And thank you so much, and have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.